Hey guys, coming to do my July wrap up, and I read a total of 8 books, and these are all for the summer romance bingo that I've been participating in, and it ends August 31st. So I'll get into it, and if you see me looking down, it's because I have the books written down with the star ratings that I rated them and the page numbers so I can keep track of how many pages I read a month. So the first book is Dangerous Lord and Innocent Governess by Christine Merrill. And I rated this a 5 out of 5 stars. It was a great book about this gal named Daphne. She came to work in this house for Lord Colton to kind of investigate how her cousin died, because her cousin was married to Lord Colton, and things ended up to where she, with the help of Lord Colton's children, solved the mystery of her cousin's death and ended up falling in love with Lord Colton and marrying him. And I definitely do recommend this book to anybody who likes a good mystery romance type book. The next one is Bright Hopes by Pat Warren. And I rated this a 5 out of 5. And let's see here. It revolves about Pam coming to Tyler, which is why it's called Welcome to Tyler. It's a part of a series. And she's becoming the football coach of the high school. And she runs into Patrick, who is the basketball coach, who was kind of helping out, filling in on the football team coach, because the coach, he was like the assistant coach to the one who was actually in charge, and Pam was taking over for the old coach because he retired. It was rough going for her at first because people had a hard time dealing with a woman being a football coach, till they started learning more about her and what comes behind it. And she happens to be a woman that suffers from MS. She found out she had MS after she was in like the Olympics for a runner and had won a gold medalist. But the team ended up winning the championship for that year for football, and she ended up marrying Patrick at the end. Then the next one I read was Alaskan Hearts by Terry Wilson. I rated this one a 3 out of 5 stars. I mean, it was a good book. It was a cute story. I just didn't quite like it. I mean, I did like it, but then again, I didn't like it. It was like a half-half situation with this book. It's like I don't know what I fully feel about it. It deals with this gentleman, Ben Grayson, who's used to be a dog sled racer, and now he's a photographer for a magazine. And he ran into Clementine, who came to be part of the current dog sled racing. And during the time since they would happen to be working together, because he was a photographer, but his he was also helping his friend out in the race, and she was doing some time for her magazine that she was working for down in Texas. During the time, they ended up falling in love, getting together, marrying, and then he became a dog sled racer again because of her. The next one on the list that I read is the Cinderella List by Judy Bear. And I rated this a 5 out of 5 stars. It talks about how Marlo and her friends, which is the girl on the cover, they had made a list of how they want their man to be. And that's why they called it the Cinderella List. Well, she ended up meeting a guy that was pretty much meeting every requirement that she ever wanted in a guy. I mean, they had their hardships where she didn't know if she really wanted to be with him, even though he was meeting everything. She was falling in love with him, but then she still was putting him at a distance till the guy she was falling for figured it out and put her at a standstill and proposed to her, and they ended up getting married on his father's ranch. Then on this book, Wisconsin Wedding by Carla Neggers, I ended up buddy reading this one with Elizabeth from Lizzie Fay Loves Books. And I hope that her and I can buddy read another book in the future. I really enjoyed doing it. And I rated this one a 5 out of 5 stars as well. And it talks about how Lisa and Cliff from the first book was getting married in this one. And how her friend Nora not only runs her aunt's store, she also tutors children on the piano, which filled the musician part of the romance. And then Cliff's brother Brian ended up coming back to town, and Nora and Brian ended up having a past before now. Things were a rough start for Brian and Nora because of what happened in the past. There was things going on between Brian and Cliff because they're brothers. Brian was there for his brother's wedding. All in all, both couples ended up getting married in the long run. Lisa and Nora were their matron of honors or bridesmaids for each other's wedding at the end of the book. And then this one is called The Other Lady Vanishes by Amanda Quick. It came out this year. Come on, Tigress. Sorry about that, guys. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It was a good book. It had a kind of like a mystery kind of kick to it with the romance. And it talked about how Adelaide Blake had escaped this asylum because she was put there against her will. This drug that her parents had developed, this asylum had used it to test it against certain people in the asylum. She was test subject B. And then this guy came along, Jake Truitt, who was hired to bring her back, but once he figured out what was going on with the mysteries in the town that she went to escape to and find out about her past, he ended up going against the person who hired him, which was in charge of the asylum. And they solved the mystery. People got hurt in the end. They fell in love, though, and they were looking at getting married. On to the next one, Savage Passion by Wanda Owen. I love my historical romance that involve Indians. I rated this a 5 out of 5. Gillian. It revolves around Gillian, who's the gal in this one, and Hawk. He's a half-breed. She was supposed to marry him at the beginning of the book, but ended up falling in love with another guy who happened to be a sea captain. She was pregnant with her husband's baby, but they moved to Ireland. He ended up dying on the ship in a bad storm. She moved back, and Hawk and her started having feelings for each other again. It started blooming. And at the end of the book, they ended up getting married and having twins, a boy and a girl. I recommend this to anybody who likes their historical romances that involve Indians. And then the last book I read for the month, which I happen to finish today, and it's The Cowboy Tour by Linda Ford. I rated this a 4 out of 5. And it had to deal with Madge working really hard to save her house, because it took place in the Depression time, so everybody was kind of hurting for money and food and losing property and so on and so forth. So she was doing everything she could to help save the house that she was living in with her 2 sisters and her mother. And then her mother decided to put an ad out for a tutor for her daughter, Louisa, which is the youngest sister in the house, which involved the cowboy who answered the ad, and it was Judd. But when he became the tutor, he went by another name till Marge figured him out and called him out on it. And then even though Marge's mother had hired him to become Louisa's husband, he ended up marrying Marge in the end, because over time they two couldn't fight, deny their feelings for each other. And they dealt with some hardships, but in the end it came all very positive. They trusted the Lord and ended up trusting each other through the end to solve everything. So for the total pages that I read for the month of July was 2,571. That was even better than what I read in June. I beat that about 300 some pages. And for an update on how I'm doing on the Summer Romance Bingo card, I counted and I have filled out 12 of the squares out of the 25, which I doubt I'll get the blackout that I wanted, but at least I could say I read a good chunk of this, and I'm proud of what I've gotten so far, because I completed one line across and almost got a second line going that I almost completed. So that completes my wrap up for the month, and I hope you all take care.